Awesome. Okay, so I'm so excited to be having this conversation with Alex Canter, the founder and CEO of Ordermark, and also someone I call a friend. So I'm really excited to be having our first Founder Series conversation with you today. And the idea of this Founder Series really came about as a result of the work that we do in organizations in training emotionally intelligent leaders. And I think a lot of the times when you step into this role of becoming a leader, the question is, oh my God, there's so many things that I need to learn, and so many things that, yes, are also innate, but there's a big growth and learning curve. And so for people that don't know all those tips and tools, I really wanted to create a space to be able to have people like yourself share what you've learned along your journey and understand that, really a lot of these things are a learning. So, the crux of this and the idea behind it is the path to leadership, and the idea that to run a successful company, leadership is kind of important. And in order to lead, you need to know yourself. And in order to know yourself, you need to do the work. So we'll be talking a little bit about the pressures of growing a business, from entrepreneur to executive, what's been contributing to the success of your company, culture, ethos, and also, some of the failures along the way. So Alex, so happy to have you here. And I'll kind of let you just give a full intro of Ordermark and Nextbite and all the wonderful things that you guys are doing over there.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's great to continue these conversations and to spread more awareness of just the different paths to leadership. I definitely was someone who didn't understand what exactly, what kind of leader I was going to be, and I looked up to all these different people growing up, and as much as I wanted to borrow from each of them, like I wanted to also be myself, and it's been an interesting journey to get here. But a little bit just background on me. I'm Alex, and I'm the fourth generation of Canter's Deli in Los Angeles, which is one of the oldest and largest restaurants in all of LA. And I had the unique upbringing of growing up in the family business and really becoming passionate about helping my family's business adapt for the next generation, and ultimately found a lot of success through online ordering and third-party delivery, like with Uber Eats and DoorDash and Postmates and all these companies. But it was really a disaster to manage all of those different systems in our restaurant. And in 2017, I co-founded Ordermark with a great group of entrepreneurs to really try to simplify the entire ability for restaurants to reach customers outside of their four walls. And we really had no idea like if there was going to be product market fit right away, or exactly what product we were going to be building when we started, but we knew that there had to be a better way for restaurants to do online ordering. So we basically just started building and getting to work, and quickly found ourselves fundraising and working with restaurants all across the United States. And for a really timely problem, which was a really new problem and challenge for restaurants. So we got we were very fortunate to start this at the right time, and really create products and services and tools to help these restaurants adapt their businesses. And eventually started scaling up the team and launched a new product offering called Nextbite, which is our new virtual restaurant business, which has been a great way to drive even more orders into these underutilized restaurant kitchens. And we've definitely had a lot of ups and downs along the bumpy road, and have come a long way in growing the team and reducing the team and growing it again. And today we have over 200 employees in our company, based in LA and Denver, and now remote all across the US. And we've raised around $150 million in venture capital. Most significantly, our last round was led by SoftBank at the end of last year, to really support our mission to help these restaurants adapt their businesses. And we're very excited to be where we are. It feels like we're just getting started in so many ways. And happy to share my experience with you today and go through some of the ups and downs that it took to get here.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing and giving us that just journey so far that you've been on. I mean, I've been fortunate to know you, I think, since you guys raised your Series A, I think was when we first were in contact, and been working, closely with some of the team at Ordermark. And it's been such an amazing journey to watch you guys grow. And, I think a lot of the times on the outside, and especially when, you have the opportunity to share, it's like, okay, the shiny things that happen on the outside, and like, wow, like you raised all this money and have grown this team, and like, but what does that really mean? Right. And like, what does that come down to on like a personal and leadership level? And so when you think about like what's been pivotal on your path to leadership, and I want to think about like really about like the journey, right? So like, what was it like from like year one even to like this past year? Like, what are the pivotal moments, experiences, things that you've sort of learned, or like the first things that come to mind?
Yeah, when I first when I decided to go all in and really give Ordermark my full attention and everything, there were originally 4 co-founders, all of which had much more experience than me and had been CEOs before. I was pretty new to entrepreneurship. I dabbled in some startups before this, but I really didn't know what it meant to be CEO, and kind of accepted the role naturally, because it was something I really was passionate about and believed in. And when we were first starting, I remember thinking like, wow, there's so much that I don't understand about what it's going to take to lead this company and grow it and scale it. And I really need to acknowledge that I have my own strengths and weaknesses, and need to bring people in around me to support me, to advise me, to mentor me, to invest their time. And from day one, we've been collecting amazing minds and people, and people that I'm really inspired by, to surround us and push us forward, so that I can be a better leader. And it's not a journey that you can take on by yourself. It's something that you really need to create this huge infrastructure support system, because there are moments that things feel like they're falling apart, and then there are times where things aren't going the way that they're supposed to be going, and you have to make really tough decisions, and there's people conflicts and all this stuff that happens along the way. And being able to lean on people who I've surrounded myself with to go through these challenging experiences has been just absolutely essential and necessary for me along this journey. And from a lot of the conversations that I've had with other CEOs, it's really important to embrace coaching and being supported by an assistant early on. We decided to do that as a company, really early along our journey. I think in the first year, I was already starting to work with a coach. And, luckily, got connected to an amazing one through the Techstars network and program. And as soon as I saw the impact that had on me and some others in our company, I really felt like embracing that and investing in that sort of education for our own self-awareness, for our own self-growth, and have brought in various resources for many people within the org to help them grow as people. And a lot of people in this company early on were very young. We didn't have a lot of experience in anything that we were doing, really. We were just passionate about solving the problems that we were solving, and took one challenge at a time, and took it day by day to really just keep jumping over hurdles and keep growing through the growing pains. So it's it's been just a huge learning experience for me.
And I think that's like the right perspective to have, right? Is like, you're not going to go in knowing everything. And actually, if you go in thinking that, then you're probably going to not last very long, right? And so it's like the ability to be like, hey, I actually don't know the answer to this, or I'm going to fail, or what I'm hearing a big part is like surrounding yourself with people who maybe do know more than you, or even not necessarily experts in their field, but people who are also passionate. Because for people who are listening who are maybe like, well, we can't afford to hire these people, or what does that look like? It sounds like just even surrounding yourself in a network of people that have the same ideals that you do, have the same goals that you do, and are like willing to show up and learn and fail and experience everything in order to get to that common shared goal.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, the entrepreneurial journey is not for everyone. We've definitely come across, many people who, don't get excited about really hard problems and really challenging, moments that happen throughout every single day. And I think there's a lot of people that you'll encounter along the journey that you have to make really tough decisions of like, this person's not a good fit for the role that they're in, or this person's causing people conflicts, and we have to, move things around and make changes. And it's really hard to like make those changes while you're also building this plane while you're flying it. And it's just, it's at first I would say it was really, I was like okay with living in situations where I knew things weren't going to work out. And one of my co-founders, Paul, has always been, coaching me and teaching me like, you got to trust your gut. If things aren't working, like you got to act on those intuitions and really believe in yourself. And if you really feel like there's something that's the wrong thing, like don't let it linger. Like go be proactive about it. And so, leaning on my co-founders, leaning on the 20 advisors that we brought in over the last couple of years has been really helpful for me to think through some of these challenging moments and experiences that I don't have a lot of experience with. And even growing up in my family's restaurant business, I got to see the way that my dad interacted with the 100+ employees at Canter's Deli, and I saw, learned a lot from him and the way that he led and the way that he managed and how he dealt with difficult decisions. And there were some things also where I was like, wow, I would never handle these situations that way too. And it made me, want to go in a different direction in the way that I'm able to lead in this company now too. So even, just being able to observe and be a sponge and watch others lead and pick what you like and what you don't like, I think has been really helpful for me too.
Yeah, totally. Learning by observation is key. I think that's like the natural thing that we all experience, even like if you're thinking about having kids, or like you're like, okay, I'm going to do what my parents did here, but I'm not going to do what they did there. And like essentially your company when you're a founder is like your baby, right? So it's like a similar process, I would imagine. And so like in seeing that, whether it's through your dad, through your board of advisors, through your co-founders, are there certain things particularly that you're like, okay, as a leader to deal with conflict resolution, or as a leader to, work myself out of a difficult situation, that you now do or don't do? Like, are there specific things that you can share?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some good concrete examples, but like, even with like fundraising, for example, there's a certain point where you're accumulating all of this information, and everyone is going to have a different opinion in the room. So like we have now, I think 14, 15 investors on our cap table, which is a lot. It's a lot of they call it mentor whiplash, where everyone's like, oh, if I were you, I'd do it this way, or I would do things this way. This is how I did it when I ran a company. And even as we were raising our last round of financing with SoftBank, there were certain board members and investors that said, I don't think we need to be talking to SoftBank right now. Like that's, it's kind of like further down the line from where we are. And but I had been having these amazing conversations with their team, and I really knew and felt like inside of my gut, like this is the right partner to go with for this next financing round. And we ended up doing a larger financing round than we were initially planning on and anticipating, which, most of our investors were very happy and excited with the outcome. But even as those conversations were happening, we had certain people along the way that were like, let's not waste our time talking to them, or let's focus on other areas of the business, or talking to other investors that are a better fit. And like deep down, if you know that it's a good fit and you know that this is the right move, like ultimately, as a CEO and founder, like I'm living and breathing this every waking moment of my existence, versus other people who are investors or mentors. They come in once a week or a couple times just to be helpful, and like you have to really take everything as like a data point, not as like this person's guiding me to do this thing, so let's do it. It's really just gathering a bunch of data points, then really trying to think deep down like what feels like the right next step from here, and ultimately like my instincts were right to follow the path of SoftBank and to go get that round done, and to enable us to do what we're doing on such a bigger level. And even some of those people who were skeptical or hesitant along that journey have since come back and said, wow, you definitely made the right call with this stuff. So it's really just getting more in tune with your intuition and trusting yourself, and being authentic to yourself versus being too influenced by the people around you. So you want to surround yourself with a great network, but also think of it as data points is what I'd recommend.
I love that. And it's such a big mantra that we promote at Mindfulness Matters, right? It's the idea of self-awareness first, right? In order to lead, you have to be self-aware, because a lot of the times when it's intuition-based decisions that you're making, which like you said, like you live and breathe your business more so than anyone else, more so than the seasoned investor or the mentor on your board, it comes down to like making those decisions that sometimes don't like logically make sense. And when things don't logically make sense because they're intuition based, there's so many people that are going to tell you no. There's so many people who are going to line up and say, like, that doesn't make sense, or you should do it like this, or X, Y, and Z, everything that you really just explained. When it's coming back to those practices of like, no, but what's really most important for this business that I've created? And it's like choosing when you want to listen and when you don't. And that practice of self-awareness is so key in identifying that, because if you're not self-aware, then it's really easy to be like, of course I'm going to listen to like the guy who exited 3 companies and knows what he's doing better than I do, right?
Yeah, like pretty much like spot on. Like there are many also moments where like I don't know what to do in certain situations, and I do need to get the person who has 3 exits under their belt on the phone to say, what the heck am I supposed to do right now? And like where you do need to reach out for help, but at least like being honest with yourself and admitting to yourself like, whoa, this is an area I fully don't understand, and I am going to go lean on people who really understand this better. I think that's also a great resource too, and it's definitely prevented us from doing a lot of stupid things along the way as well.
Right. So it's kind of a hybrid. It's like being self-aware to either know that, hey, I know the answer deep down, versus like, hey, I actually need to ask for help on this. And then creating that network of people that can help you, whether it's your team or your advisors or a coach that you work with.
Yes.
And I know you mentioned, like just the idea of like some peer, some like networks that you're a part of for peer support. And I think it's really important to recognize like and reiterate the message that you're sharing, which is that like Rome wasn't built in a day and you don't do it by yourself. And I know you mentioned Techstars as being something that you've been a part of. Are there other, peer support networks that you're a part of that have been pivotal in shaping your role as a leader?
Yeah, so Techstars was such a strong community when we were such an early stage company, and some of those relationships and just see other CEOs in our program and some of the people we met in that program just helped us really like take our training wheels off and really unlock some of the potential early on. It was just nice to be surrounded by other companies that had the same hustle and same growth mindset and vision as you, and like being in this co-working environment with a bunch of other scrappy companies was like just very inspiring for us to really motivate us to go big. And then I tend to try to go to many meetup dinners and meetup events across LA. I'm part of a group that meets every 2 weeks. It's a bunch of CEOs of tech companies in Los Angeles, and it's kind of like a venting / therapy session where we come with different challenges, and we really go deep on a couple of them and try to help each other out, and think through some of these challenges with a group that has no financial interest or vested interest in your upside, which I think is really important to have. Like, obviously we have mentors and advisors and investors, but they all have equity and, have, are motivated by, certain outcomes um, and that could obviously create bias and influence in a certain direction. So having also some people who have no vested interest in your success, who can objectively just say, hey, I'm hearing, these challenges that you're saying, and like, honestly, here's what I would do about it, has been really, really helpful for me. And I'm really fortunate to have uncovered and met this group of people. There's obviously like YPO and EY and all these like legit forums for that kind of work, but I found one that was a little bit more grassroots and, a little bit less non-committal compared to some of those other programs, and I think that's worked really well for me. Also, some of the investment groups that
ask you quickly, how did you connect with that group? Like, how did that even come about?
I think I had met someone at a networking dinner who invited me,
Cool.
which
Great.
just shows how important it is to put yourself out there and allow spontaneity and magic. The magic just happens when you put yourself out there. So,
100%. 100%. It's just putting yourself in situations that maybe feel a bit uncomfortable and like sharing what you do and allowing, like, especially if you're on that aligned path, things will come to you as opposed to always making it happen. But things are probably not going to come to you like sitting in your apartment by yourself. It's like putting yourself out there in order to do that. Absolutely. Which has been a lot harder this year, obviously, so to speak. And there's been virtual ways to do that. But yeah, I think that's a really good message, is like putting yourself out there and remembering that that leads to other things, even if you don't have like that direct return right away.
Definitely. Yeah, that's something. I mean, early on, I was going out multiple nights a week to different tech meetup events or groups or dinners that I was invited to by LA investors, and just every time I would get an invite, if I wasn't doing something that night, I would always opt in, because it was like just being surrounded by and exposing yourself to other people helps open up these doors, and like you never know who you're going to meet. Your next head of operations, or one time I was sitting at a dinner and I met this guy, and he later joined as our chief operating officer. So it's it's really it's amazing what can happen if you just put yourself out there and let magic happen. But also we've gotten really fortunate to have brought on some amazing venture capital groups, not just strategic finance that's coming in to help fuel the growth of the business, but also creating peer networks and support groups. And for example, we have our lead investor from our Series B was Foundry Group, which is a great VC firm out of Colorado, and they have like the CEO email list where people are constantly asking each other questions and putting out asks for help and sharing resources with each other. And I can't tell you how many Slack groups I'm in of like each VC group that's gotten behind us, and there's constantly people posting great candidates that we can hire. And just being a part of these groups feels like you're a part of something that's a community. It's something that's enabling you to see how other people operate, and you learn so much just from, again, being a sponge and observing and watching how other people are going about their journey. I had no idea how to present a board deck, for example. Like the first time that we had a board meeting, I had no idea where to start. I think I Googled like board deck template and found the first thing on Google and tried to fill it out. And then it's evolved so much over time just from talking to other CEOs and reviewing strategies and hearing how other people find the best use out of their board meeting templates and structures. And just asking for help is something that I feel like people don't always have some people feel like they need like permission to ask for help, but it's so easy to just ping somebody and say, hey, I'd love to chat with you about how you're managing this side of your business. And I want to encourage people not to hesitate to reach out to each other. and to ask for help, even if you feel like you're doing a pretty good job at something. Double check, like have somebody shadow you, like review it with someone. I promise you're going to learn something just from talking it out with them, or seeing how they would do it. And we've done mock board meetings before where we've invited some of our mentors to come in and just listen to the way that we're talking about different topics, and they've added things that we would have never thought about. So it's really important to be okay with acknowledging that you don't have all the answers, that there's probably a better way to be doing whatever it is you're doing. You don't need to start from scratch with everything. And I think that's a really key strategy for time management too. Like if I had to do everything from scratch, I think it would just take so much more of my bandwidth and time and energy versus like asking people to share templates and whatever else is already out there. So
Yeah, absolutely.
that's
It's understanding you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So what I'm hearing from you is like community is so important, and being able to just lean into the communities that you're a part of, also like putting yourself out there and like you said, going to those events and networking events, even if there isn't a direct return, you never know where it's going to come back around in the long term. And then also like not reinventing the wheel because it's probably been done in a certain way before, and asking for help because you'll always learn something that maybe you didn't see yourself, which I totally agree with and 100% attest to. I think that's really helpful just to recognize like, okay, wow, like so much of what you've learned in terms of shifting into this leadership role, because right, you start with like just an idea is like all of these things, and that's accessible to anyone and everyone. And I think that's something that's really important to remember is that like anyone can access this with doing these things, right? And so the more you do them, and again, put yourself out there and really explore your communities, like the more opportunities come towards you in terms of and listening to your gut and your intuition. And I'm going to change gears here just before we close is, obviously, and you and I were chatting a little bit before, like your team has grown to 200 people. You had an influx of capital from SoftBank, and things have been so crazy this year. Whereas like so many of the people have been onboarded remotely. So, what are you guys at Ordermark doing in terms of employee mental health right now, right? Like knowing all of those things in the year that we've had, are there things specifically that you're doing that you found have been really helpful?
Yeah, it's something we take really seriously, and it's we're constantly trying to innovate and think of new ways to better support our team, particularly with all the challenges that have happened over the last year, not just the isolation, but all the really challenging moments that have happened from just there's been a lot last year, and just trying to be there, being able to go on a walk with them or recognize when someone's having a bad day. It's been so much more challenging than in an office environment where you're constantly surrounded by people. You can go on a walk with someone if they're not having a good experience or having a bad day, and we've brought in Mindful Mondays is something that we offer to all of our team every Monday morning. We start with a brief meditation at our all hands stand up. Take some deep breaths to enter into the week. We have yoga classes that we do through Zoom regularly. We have breathwork classes. We have, really, we really encourage people to take PTO. In fact, like we just did a PTO audit to see who's not taking enough PTO, and people to, even if they're not going anywhere, take a day off and just be home, or stay wherever they are, but just not work for a day. And all of this is just part of an overall like attitude and philosophy around our company that people first culture is about being there to support each other and help each other, and providing resources to help each other grow. And we definitely care a lot about the employee experience. We've invested heavily in our people and culture team, growing that team to over 10 people now, which is a very disproportionate amount compared to many other companies, because it's an area where we want to invest heavily in to make sure that people have the resources that they need to be supported and helped. And I'm excited to continue to offer coaching and services and other ways to really just be there for people when they need it. So.
I love that. I love that about you and how you lead in your philosophy and the team at Ordermark. And obviously, it's what we believe in so strongly, of people first. And you can't give from an empty cup, and how can you perform at your best if you're not, feeding yourself and nurturing yourself? So I'm with you on that 100%. And we did a really fun retreat over the holidays in lieu of a Christmas party. It was one of the options that you shared with the team, so that was really fun working with. We did like a little end of year kind of virtual retreat for people, which was like in your space, right? Because they couldn't be all together in their space. And I love that we were able to do that together. And just generally, I feel like you guys are always on the pulse and on the ball with that, which is game changing to a successful organization, at least in my experience and what I've understood. So I love that you guys do that all the time. And so just to kind of close today, I wanted to just ask, like, you've mentioned so many things that are valuable, I think, to everyone listening, and so many great resources that you've used, and also like debunk the myth of like, okay, I'm not like Alex Canter, the CEO that knows everything, but actually I've learned along the way and I'm still learning. Has there been a powerful training or something that you've done that shaped you as a leader? Like whether it's like a certain forum or a conference that you've gone to? Like, I know, again, we talked a little bit about some of those peer support things, but is there something that like a course you've taken, or, again, know that you've spoken about working with an executive coach as well, but is there something that sticks out that you haven't already mentioned?
Um, early on we did a company retreat for our whole team where we all went out and did strength finder tests and team bonding exercises. And I feel like companies are so afraid to do something like that because of the way it might come across to like lean finance VCs and it used to be so discouraged to spend money on like things that weren't driving revenue, and I think the world has changed so much in the way that people work together, and the expectations and the amount of time that people are and energy that people are pouring into the company. And I just taking time to pause and do these types of to offer these types of services to our team, I think is just like one of the real secrets to why we've been able to scale without getting burnt out. Um, I think I talk to a lot of founders who are trying to avoid burnout and manage like that, and it becomes a big problem for their teams as they're hitting growing pains and as they're facing new challenges. And I can't tell you how important it is. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and too many people are trying to sprint the marathon. And you have to slow down, and take time, and prioritize all this stuff in order to really be able to accomplish big growth, and especially when you're blitz scaling and scaling at a very unsustainable pace, which can be uncomfortable most of the time. Like it becomes even more important to prioritize this stuff. And personally, just working with the CEO coach has been my number one recommendation I would give to anyone who's not doing something like that yet. It's really changed my world, and has been a time every week for me to just pause, slow down, like slow down to speed up and really think about and reprioritize and re-strategize some of the bigger initiatives that I want to work towards. And it's easy to get lost in the day-to-day or have your inbox control your day if you're not careful. So just pause and take some time to think and focus on the business versus just being in the business the whole time.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like you're driving the business, right? So if you need to take time, it's like, I think about it like the analogy of putting oil in your car. It's like you need to put oil in your car in order for it to run the way that you want it to, as opposed to just thinking it's going to keep running the way you want. But it's like actually taking out time as maintenance and continually for self-care, for reflection, for pausing, for integration, right? When you're moving at such a fast pace, you can sometimes forget like all the things that you're doing. And it's like taking the moment to like, hey, what worked, what went well, what didn't, where do I want to grow, what do I want to do? And I think you are such a great example for that as a leader. Like it really is amazing at a young age for you to be able to be leading a company of other younger people too, to embody these things. And and embody this idea of people first. And I think you've provided some of the really tactical things that you've done and that people listening can do. So I'm so grateful for that, and grateful to orbit in your sphere and to be connected in this way.
Yeah, well, it's, we're just getting started, and feels like we're still looking for, inspiration and ways to keep doing what we're doing at an increased level, and we're always, evolving and changing and learning, and we'll continue to be a sponge and absorb, other things that other people are doing. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Alex. Everyone listening, watch out for Ordermark. Where can people find you?
Just ordermark.com, or you can email me at alex@ordermark.com. So.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Definitely watch out for this company. They're like working behind the scenes for all your online ordering needs, and yeah, lots of growth happening. So reach out to Alex if something that he said excited you, and more importantly, just understand the steps that it takes to be a leader, and that it's less of a target and more of a journey that we're always learning. So thank you for reiterating that and for chatting with me today.
Thanks for talking about this stuff, and yeah, thanks for having me.